All right. Well, let's kick this thing off. So, what you drinking there, DJ? You're muted, man.
Tea from Popeyes because I'm that fancy.
From like Popeyes, the chicken place?
Yeah, man.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
it's it's nice because we're still not going to the grocery store as often as I would like. So yeah,
yeah.
just Uber Eats some chicken. You get some chicken, you get some sweet tea, you get some biscuits. Good to go.
Health food.
So, not
You don't get a body but like this by being healthy.
not not to
Practical.
not to go off on a tangent here, but I do love a good chicken sandwich every now and then. And somebody had told me that if I haven't had the chicken sandwich from Popeyes, that it far surpasses the chicken sandwich anywhere else. Even, and this is a bold claim. They said it was better than Chick-fil-A, which is,
I would agree. I don't know that it far surpasses,
okay.
but I mean they're both good chicken sandwiches. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Because I will admit that I do love my Chick-fil-A. So, but anyway, enough about fast food menus. Okay, so welcome everybody to the August meeting. Holy crap, it's August. We have like literally one more meeting after this, and then it is Member Showcase, last meeting of the year. And if you would have told me at the beginning of this year that the majority of our year would be spent online in Zoom doing these meetings this way, I would have called you crazy. And but yeah, it has been quite a year. So, but we are very lucky to have Dan Brown Jr. with us tonight, and I'm very much looking forward to his presentation. But before that, we got a couple of announcements to make. First off, there's a new version of Premiere, an update that dropped like a couple days ago. I think it was a lot of versions. I think After Effects, Audition, a whole bunch of stuff dropped. Some minor changes and some updates, bug fixes, all that kind of stuff. So definitely download that if you haven't. And then I want to give a special shout out to Adobe Video World, which is happening next month. It is a really cool event. There's going to be a lot of speakers. It's focused on Premiere Pro and After Effects. The dates are September 12th through the 17th. It's, I think, $3.99 per track. So if you want to just focus on editing and do the Premiere Pro, it's $3.99. If you want to do just After Effects on that track, you can focus on that for $3.99. Or they have, I think they call it the Mega Bundle, which is $7.95, which encompasses everything. And it is a lot of very big instructors, talented people. So highly recommend you check that out. I will post it up in both the Facebook group and the Meetup group, so you have a link to get more information. And at the end of this presentation, the end of the meeting tonight, we will be raffling off 2 of the Mega Bundle passes. That's right, 2 for people to get. In addition to that, something that we kind of just forgot about that we were able to do and haven't done all year is a Creative Cloud. So we'll also raffle off a year of Creative Cloud. And the way we will be doing that's going to be a little bit different. Obviously, we're not all in the same room. So what we will be doing is everybody's going to be picking a number. And then DJ has assured me that he has a foolproof system for using a number generator, which will pick a number for each one. And who's ever closest to the number without going over, yes, this is like Price is Right, will be the winner for these things.
if I say it's foolproof, buckle in.
We may encounter a few hiccups here, but bear with us. We're going to have 3 winners at the end of the night. So I think at this point, that is all the announcements I have. I guess the one thing I'll say, like I said, we have one more meeting next month. We'll have a full meeting announcement about what that is. After that, it will be we're going to try to do the member showcase. I don't think we're going to obviously be able to do it in person like we normally do. Although that would be pretty awesome if we could, but we will try to figure out a way to do that online. I'm not quite sure how, if we'll do it over Zoom or something else. I'm not quite sure what's the best way to stream videos, but we will talk about it, DJ and I, and come up with a plan, and we will pass that along to you. So start thinking about what video you've worked on over the past year that you would like to share with everybody. Just remember the rules. It has to be under 5 minutes. Keep it clean, folks. I don't want to see anything, risque, at least not on the Zoom call. And then if it's a longer piece, it's like a 30-minute video that you're really proud of, edit out the 5 minutes you like the best. Okay. We're editors, people. You can trim those clips down. And if you can't, for some reason, we've really failed in our mission statement. And with that, I'm going to let DJ introduce Dan, Dan Brown Jr., our presenter tonight from CrimeSonics. I am super stoked about this presentation because I checked out some of what Dan does, and this looks super, super cool. This isn't a presentation that's really focused on editing, but you know what? If you don't think music and sound effects and all that is an important part of what we do as an editor, I don't even want to know what your projects are like, because you're missing, you know, as George Lucas says, 50% of the product of the experience. So with that, DJ, I'll let you introduce Dan.
All right. So Dan actually came up on my radar when he just raked in the Emmys a couple months back. It was more than a grand slam. You know, he brought home several, 5, I believe.
Yeah, 5 in total.
5. Yeah. And so, you know, that raised my interest. And then when I started looking into what he does, I am notorious for picking bad music for projects. I have, you know, my music taste is kind of somewhere between Cardi B and like Mayhem and other, you know, Swedish black metal bands. So music may not be my forte in this world. So I always like to hear, you know, how anything musical and, you know, sound effects wise can start to, you know, really bring, you know, my stuff out. And I just do motion design. So with, you know, when you're looking at the entirety of an edit, it's like, this guy sounds like someone that we need to chat with. And so, yeah, his stuff has been featured across, and I pulled up the list because it was so many that I couldn't remember it. He's regularly, you know, his stuff's regularly on ABC, CBS, CNN, E, MSNBC. I'm actually skipping some. There's so many. Travel Channel. He's, you know, his stuff's on Dateline, Restaurant Impossible. Yeah, I mean, it just goes on and on. I actually lost my place. So there's too many commas there for me and my poor reading comprehension at the moment. That said, Dan, thank you for talking to us, and take it away.
Well, thank you guys for having me. And, you know, it's funny, this kind of feels like one of those dreams where you are on stage and you're supposed to play a song and you don't know the parts, or you're in a play and you don't know any of the lines. And so I think if I can be completely transparent, a little nervous. I don't do this a ton. I have done a little bit of Zoom interaction, but if I could, can I just talk about what I know, which is music for media, how we started CrimeSonics, just a little bit, maybe just tell you how I created this whole world that not only we're living in, but we're thriving in, if that's fair enough.
That would be great.
Okay, so, and that's easy to do because I can talk about that stuff all day because I love that stuff. Originally, our family's from St. Louis, and nothing wrong with that city. Small city, great city. Not a whole lot going on in that city for a guy like me. And so we started our move west about 10 years ago. And specifically because, and I think it's even listed on our website somewhere, because I wanted to write the music that you hear in the crime shows. So not to jump ahead of myself, but CrimeSonics isn't something that I created because I thought like, wow, this is trendy now. I've loved true crime and unscripted crime my whole lifetime. I've been watching this stuff since I was a kid. And I think it's because initially, musically, I started with guitar, and there's a lot of like dark, interesting guitar music that you can write and is regularly featured in those kind of shows. So way back when I was a kid, I already knew I was going to do this stuff. Already knew it. So we moved out to LA 10 years ago. And if you guys have ever been to LA, you know, once you get here, you have culture shock, right? It's like, oh my gosh, there's 100,000 people that are doing what I'm doing. There's 999,000 of them probably better than me. And they've been here longer than me. And so those first couple of years was kind of rough, just trying to figure out, like, where do you start, you know? And so we got into town. We don't have any family here, didn't know anybody here. And so it truly was that story of like, let's pack up the guitars and move to Los Angeles. So here we are, we're in Los Angeles. And I'm still in college at the time. And one of my courses mentioned this industry called production music and the production music library and this whole model. I didn't even know what this was. I didn't know what this meant. And so I started Googling stuff like, what is a production music library? This sounds interesting. And what I had learned was you can create vast amounts of music, sound effects, Foley, whatever, work with teams, create all this great content. And then instead of just like scoring to picture all the time where, you know, like you would hire me and then I would score directly to picture. Well, sometimes the projects aren't coming, right? I don't want to sit around. I don't want my team sitting around twiddling our thumbs. So we're always constantly writing music. So once I figured out that industry, I wanted to know how to get involved. So I started Googling people, production music library owners. I found a guy in Santa Monica. I cold called sales, right? Sales 101, called the guy up, said, hey, I'm on your website. You guys look legit. Can I come hang out? They gave me the typical LA kind of attitude, but hey, they let me come to their studio. And man, I was pretty impressed when I got to go there. Here's a new guy fresh off the train from St. Louis. And I'm hanging out in Santa Monica. I'm in this beautiful loft, this amazing studio. And these guys are just treating me like the intern they found in the alley. And I was taking it. I was like, I got alligator skin. I can take it. And, you know, I just waited for the right moment. And I asked these guys, hey, would you mind listening to just something that I've written at 60 seconds? You can shred it. That's cool. You can totally shred it apart. I just want to know if I actually have a shot or did I make the wrong move? And they listened to it. I'll never forget it. They both turned around. I was sitting on their couch. And they said, man, you know what, kid? You got chops. You should write for our library. And that's how I started in the industry was these guys who own and operate this really big library gave me a shot. I never done this stuff before. So I started writing music for them. They would critique the music. That was hard, right? At first, you're not used to having someone critique your work, especially when you have this whole like artsy artist mentality. And so even that was like humbling and, you know, transparently it's kind of difficult. It's kind of frustrated, but kept writing music. Nothing was happening. And then one day, you know, the life-changing moment, right? Royalty check comes in the mail. I remember, I won't disclose the amount, but it was small. But I tell you what, it was like $1 million to me to know that, wow, I actually came from Middle America to Los Angeles and I wrote some music. I met these people. I wrote some music. It ended up on TV and I made money off it. And when I looked at the statement, the very first placement I ever had, the very first show was Dateline NBC. And to like have that goal of I'm coming out to Los Angeles to write for production library musics and to write for crime shows, and then to see it all come, you know, full circle, the full life cycle. It's all I needed. It was it. Even if it was, you know, enough to buy dinner and a coffee. It was like $1 million to me. So for several years, I just stayed on that track, which was I'm going to write music for this guy, his library. And then while I was doing that, I continued to get credits and placements and the royalties kept coming in and, you know, it starts to go up and up and up. It takes years. And during that time, I started writing for, you know, another library, another company, and then another company. I think at one time I was writing for like 7 different companies. And I was just like, write a track for this guy, and then this lady, and this company, and this team, and this guy. And I was going around the circle and honestly working myself to death. I didn't really have a good, you know, like work-life balance at all. Like I really, really worked myself to death. Had the opportunity somewhere in there to work at Disney as a composer and sound designer. And for a year, it was a contract position. I kind of switched over into like the corporate composing mode while still, when I could, trying to feed, you know, all these other needs while the, you know, like the royalties and the catalog was going up. And then something interesting happened. It was when I was at Disney, and I can't remember the project exactly. I remember I threw a project out and the notes came back and there was like 35 people attached to this email. And it was like 35 comments, and like I remember just scratching my head like, who's my boss on this? Like who do I need to listen to on this? Who do I really need to make? Okay, I don't know this name. I don't know that name. That idea is pretty good. I'll do that. I just realized like, ooh, the corporate thing's interesting. And then at the same time, I had some other projects come in, and they were like comedy, and it was dramedy, and it was 8-bit video game, which I didn't mind that actually, but there were all these other styles and all this other stuff. And I really started feeling like, okay, wait a minute. I came to Los Angeles because I want to write, criminal and investigatory type of music. That's why I'm here. And when I first got here, that's what I did. And it went on NBC and I'm a hero, but what the heck am I doing now? Like, why am I writing comedy cues? I remember that morning I came into the studio. It was not this studio, different one, but like I didn't want to be in here. And that was one of the first times I ever thought like, ooh, okay, now it's a job. And now it's a job I don't like. And so there was that soul searching moment of like, what am I going to do? And I just remember telling my wife, like, look, this is like a major gamble. This is like an all in kind of thing. And so if I'm going to do just the one thing, I don't want to do just the one thing for someone else. I don't want to build someone else something phenomenal. I think and truly believe, humbly, transparently, because I have a lifetime of viewership and actual fandom of the genre, that I can't say that I'm the best at it, but like our company and our whole team now, we are the absolute best at it. And I knew that then. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to like not work at the mouse, and I'm not going to write for all these other people and all this thing I've been doing for the last several years. I'm going to stop, full blown, all in gamble, right? What do they call that? Like ride or die, right? Ride or die, man. Got to do it. And so we did it. So here's how, let me transition for a second into the whole CrimeSonics thing. I knew in order to pull this thing off that I was going to need to sign some sort of big distribution deal. So not to get too in the weeds on how all that works, is there are several big global production music and music companies. And I knew I needed to sign with one of them. Like, I'm not a sales dude. I did sales back in the day. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. And it's easier to sell something if you're passionate about it, but I don't like it, right? I want to write music. I want to make sound effects. I want to do that. So I needed to sign a deal. So how do you sign a big, massive distribution deal? You got to have something that somebody wants, right? I thought this niche is super cool, so let me build something for a while. And like throwing out like an advice thing, right? Like a career advice thing. You don't always have to post about what you're doing. You don't always have to talk about what you're doing. So for a year, I reached out to some friends of mine that were composers, some people that I've worked on projects before and with. And I said, hey, I'm going to send you an NDA, and then I want to talk to you about this thing I'm doing. And if you know me and you value anything I do, and you've watched my history, like I'm all in on this. So let's do it. So I got like 35 or 36 people convinced that if we built this thing, it would be successful. And so, I really got to hand it to those people. So for a whole year, I did the work of a creative director behind the scenes while I was working on other stuff. I was ghostwriting for a guy, doing all these Discovery Channel shows. And I was taking, projects in when I could. And I did an indie film and all this stuff that was like, it was not what I wanted to do. But I would wake up every morning, and the CrimeSonics thing was just, it was wind in my sails. After we got to about 26 volumes of content, and that's what, 260 tracks of, crimey sounding music, I thought, okay, I think I have something. I can disclose some funny stuff. We had some terrible names in the beginning. Like, we were going to call it like Tracks for TV. Terrible. We were going to call it Tension Tracks. I think I still own the website for that. Tension Tracks. I remember telling that to a guy, and he's like, dude, I'm falling asleep. That's terrible. I have a good friend of mine who runs another like really big company, and he said, dude, you're doing a crime library. Try to get crime in the name. And so that's when the whole like CrimeSonics Incorporated thing came into mind. CrimeSonics Incorporated, CSI. It looks good on the check. You know, it's like a little play on that. So yeah, 26 volumes. We came up with a cool name. We built a cool website. It was time to shop the thing around. And luckily, I was speaking at an event, met with the senior vice president of global operations of BMG Production Music. They're a massive global production music company. And signed a deal, signed a global distribution deal with them. And what that allows, what it allows me to not have to do is sell the thing right now. I don't have to worry about that, right? All I have to worry about is working with our writers, and I'm going to get all into that in a moment, and staying creative and trying to keep like the business part of it as much as I can. It's impossible to completely, but I'm trying to keep the business part of it out of the equation as much as possible. And even the day-to-day operations of CrimeSonics, I really leave on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't really think about like the size of this thing and like all the people I have to deal with and all the emails, all texts, really until Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I just try to live my life the same way I used to live my life with. I'm just a composer. I'm just a sound designer. I want to never lose sight of that, right? I don't want to be someone who now I run this thing and that's all I do. And then, you know, all those muscles that I had, I used to flex every day. Now they're all atrophied and I have no talent anymore or something. And then all my writers are so much better than me. It's like something about like trying to stay cutting edge and stay like at the forefront. I've got some really good writers. There's a couple of people in here that just like really freak me out how good they are. But I don't want to blow me away at all. Okay, let me think. I kind of lost my train of thought on our deal. Yeah, so we got a global deal. That means in 20 territories around the world, our music is distributed on our behalf by BMG. That music, those sound effects, it goes into television shows, radio stations, streaming services. They have blanket deals with networks and shows, and editors all around the world each month get fresh content from CrimeSonics that they can cut into their shows. Now, having said that, although we are a criminal and investigatory library, I hear our stuff and see our stuff getting used all over the place. It's not like we just have, press a button, general tension, pulse-driven underscore. We do so much more than that, and I want to talk all about it. And so I'm hearing our music everywhere. So, if you need anything that sounds tense, somber, melancholic, blue, lonely, saddened, downtrodden, right? Like that's kind of what we do. There's a spoken rule with our composers, and it's never a major third, or, in layman's terms, never something happy. We don't do happy music. If you want happy music, I'm happy for you to go somewhere else. We do the crimey stuff. I love it. Okay, can I talk a little bit about like the day today with our writers and kind of a little bit deeper into library? Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Okay. Again, because I feel like I'm free flowing, and if I'm boring, just wave at me.
And yeah, feel free to talk about that. And yeah, and if you want to play some music and play some of this stuff and show what you do, that's good too.
I love it. And it's funny because it'd be kind of awkward to pull something up right now, but CrimeSonics.com. And actually, that's a good thing to talk about real quick. If you go to our site, you can actually easily search our catalog because everything is housed on a database called Source Audio. So if you go to CrimeSonics.com, left-hand side, search music, click it, and you have access not only to every single track that we do, but there's drop downs and then every single stem of the track. Let me just go there right now and talk about it. So what does CrimeSonics actually do? We do music. We do, I think, some of the absolute best sound effects on the planet Earth. And I'm like, am I selling this? Well, no, I just truly believe it. Like, they sound killer. We've Universal Pictures has used our stuff in their trailers. Like, it is that killer. Like, and we have tons of it, literally thousands of it. I will tell you that we do Foley, but and we do, it's just not released yet. So we have a whole bunch of really cool Foley packs coming out, and some interesting ones like, like stun batons and tasers and handcuff Foley, triggering topic. I'm a gun guy, so like all the real gun Foley that you hear is actually real guns here in the studio. Love that stuff. So yes, we do Foley. And then the last thing we do is we provide cleaned up but real police chatter. And it's really interesting because we source, it's a long process. Like we actually record live police scanner audio for like hours and hours and hours and hours. And then we find the little nuggets of the coolest parts. And then we categorize those. Like, for example, it'll be like traffic related stuff, or like medical related stuff, or like gang activity, or like there's a whole other one that it was all like, what was it, like drugs and alcohol, stuff like that. So music, sound effects, Foley, and police chatter. That's what we do. The music, everyone on here, I believe, is an editor, so you're hip to this, right? So we do not just provide you with the full mix. Since I had written for so many other libraries in the past, I feel like we're offering like the best of what I've learned from like all my competition now. And so without going in like a super amount of detail, we'll always give you the full mix. And then you'll have the same mix with all the percussion turned down a little bit. And then we have the same mix again with all the percussion turned down a little bit more. Sometimes the drums and things are just a little too like spiky, and they compete with your dialogue. So I'm sensitive to that. We know that. So all of our tracks are going to have the full mix, drums down 1, drums down 2. The other thing about our tracks is we actually mix them with a little bit more reverb than I think if you listen to the track at like a normal listening level, the tracks kind of sound a little wet. They're a little too juicy. But as you know, when you turn tracks down and they start sitting under dialogue, you really start noticing whatever's the loudest in the mix, the transients, right? So we try to mix our tracks where it's a little more gooey. Honestly, I think it works well for the criminal and the investigatory type of music. It's just gooier, right? We'll always provide you the same stuff with no melody or only the melody. Any interesting parts in the track, like if it's piano driven, we will give you just piano. If it's guitar driven, you'll have just guitar. We always try to do what we call an underscore mix. And then we have what we call like the drones. So the underscore would be like everything in the track that's kind of circulating and percolating and giving you the groove without all of the like focus. That would be the underscore. But then the drone would just be, no percussion, nothing rhythmic. Like think almost like docu-score, right? Documentary, just press the button, vibe, give you that. Most of our tracks and most of our writers use a lot of transitional and modern sounding sound effects. So we'll give you that stem. And then we do a thing called stings at the end, which is usually just to last anywhere from like, 6 to maybe even like 18 seconds of a track. Kind of like zips in, kind of wraps up the idea and stings you to commercial break. And usually you have anywhere from at least 1 to 5 of those. What I tell all of my writers, and I think we're at about 70 or 75 writers now, is when you're putting together a cue, first write like an editor. Don't write like a composer, right? If the track isn't useful to an editor, it's not going to get used. There needs to be parts. It needs to have syncable moments, things that you can cut to, right? It needs to have like a theme, and then that theme needs to develop, right? So we can ramp up the tension. I mean, we're a tension-based library. And so either the track's going to start like right out of the gate with a big bang, or it's going to just, be a slow burn, and you can like look at the wave file. It's just going up and up and up. So I tell all my writers to think like an editor when you're composing, and less like a composer, mainly because when I worked at Disney, I had to do a lot of editing, and so I had to use other libraries' music, and I felt really limited if the track didn't have parts. So all of our tracks have a lot of parts, and I think anyone who drops music into a track, you want to see an interesting wave file, right? You want to see like there's pits and falls and valleys. So then, as the editor, now you get to play like music editor. You can cut it up, slice it up, recompose it, shorten things, make things longer. It's pretty impossible to do that if the track just kind of looks like a big fat piece of sausage on there, right? You got to have those parts. What else? So yeah, we have 75 writers. All of our tracks are really amazing and dope.
We have
ask me
actually, Dan. We have a question. So group member Joey is actually in a sound design session. He says, and he's loving this, and he wants to know what the licensing is like from your site. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things going on here, because CrimeSonics proper is represented by BMG Production Music Group. Now, if you try to license, you can license everything through our site, and they handle all of the licensing. Like I said, I take myself out of the business stuff as much as I can. So if you're finding sounds in there that you want, it's pretty easy and fast to license them. Just click in what you want. You'll see it all on there. They'll hit you up. You guys can work the deal, and it's that simple. The other thing that we are really starting to explore, and so we can talk offline, is our custom cue, custom sound effects division. That is something where I want to be more hands-on. I know, and I am sensitive to, that there are times where someone needs something right now and their budget is that big. Well, okay, so I'm more than willing to, myself or one of my team members to just jump right in. What do you need? Let's work out what works. Like, very transparently, we're doing fine. Like, if you got a project and you need some help with something, it's more fun. Like, let's just get to work. Like, what's the budget? And that's fine. Let's get to work, right? So let me know what you need. We'll take care of you.
And let's see. I don't think at this point I have any other questions. Let me check this over here. Nope. So yeah. So yeah, maybe just talk about your library. Maybe hear some some samples.
Yeah, like let me, what's the easiest way to do that on this Zoom? If I went to the site and played audio.
Well, you can share your screen. So you should have a little button down on the bottom that's green that says share screen.
Don't you love how prepared I am to share my screen? Okay.
We're all figuring this out as we go, so don't worry about it.
My son today started 7th grade, and it was fun to sit in on his Zooms. Okay, down at the bottom, share my screen. Okay, here it is.
And then, yeah, I do have one note to, there is when you do that, there's a share audio button. You want to make sure that you want to share your audio as well.
Okay, let's see that. So
that might be a little critical for what we're doing tonight.
Okay, and share computer sound. Okay, so what do you see? Do you see my screen?
We will here in a second. It looks like it's starting to.
I want to rev.
Yep, there we go. But we don't hear it.
Okay, well that's good because I don't hear it either. Okay, but real quick, hold on. Let me go back. So if I click on the CrimeSonics homepage, and do you see me or do you see my screen?
We see the screen.
Perfect. Okay, let's run through it. Right over to the left-hand side, there's this link. And if you go to search music, this will take you to our source audio page, housed, if you see my cursor, on BMG source audio account. This is everything we have available to the public right now. In full disclosure, we got about 50 or 60 more volumes that are just about to go live. So I'm real excited for all the new stuff. And so why don't we just dig into some of this stuff? Real quick, when I talk about CrimeSonics or criminal and investigatory music, usually what I hear people think crime music is simple, general tension, pulse driven, but that is not the case. We really do pride ourselves on having this major separation between our volumes. And you can see a couple of them here. Cybercrime does not sound anything like forensic science. So let me give you an example of that. Let's go to Cybercrime Volume 1. And let's just pull up a track. Let's see some of this cool stuff. Maybe I'll try to find something. I don't know. You know, it's so funny. I haven't listened to these in so long. Let's just listen. Here we go. Here's one I wrote. Let's take a listen. It's loading. Let's go to another one. Did you guys hear that okay? You can hear that the cybercrime stuff sounds glitchy. Everything's modern. Sounds like what I tell our writers is cybercrime music should sound like you're flying through circuit boards. You know, if you were to set your editing bay up inside of your computer, that's how it should sound. We should sound like, and the titles all make sense, right? Analyzing data, criminal decoder, cybercrime expert. Let's just scan through a couple more. Virus. On what cybercrime music sounds like to us.
We actually have one question that you might be can address right here is with so much to choose from, what's the question say here? What's the best way to search? With so much to choose from, you can't listen to everything and hope for the aha moment. So what do you recommend, or how does searching for things work?
Well, that's a great question. Should I click back over on my head here?
Oh, you can keep it on there if you
okay. So like the topic that really comes up, there's two things. Depending on what you're working on, right? Like, I mean, that's going to really zero in what you're searching for. If you are working on a project, and I'm going to, personalize this and make it very crimey. Let's say you're working on something that's happening, in a forensic laboratory, right? I mean, you wouldn't search titles like, Russian hacker or, like dark web, because those in our library, those type of searches will bring up cybercrime music. If you're working on something that has to, it takes place in a laboratory or a forensic laboratory, you can search things like DNA or, luminol or what's the other word I'm looking for? Blood stain analysis, stuff like that, right? The keywords are really crucial, and we spend a considerable amount of time doing what in our industry is called metadata. So when you actually come up to the search bar and you search in the library, hopefully your results are accurate. Now, like anything, you're always going to get something that might not be exactly what you looked for, and that's what we're all trying to perfect, is the metadata. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
I mean, as somebody who I use a music library service, DeWolf Music back in New York for like a lot of the corporate stuff that I do. And, it's that I will say, that Bob's question is kind of rings true for me, that, yeah, searching through and they sort of use the same system that you do with a lot of keywords, right, tag the things and searching for those. But yeah, it is, one thing I would ask too, and it sounds like you do this from what you said earlier, but like, I know with the music library company that I use, if I call them up and say, hey, I need a track that sounds like this, and I'll send them a YouTube link, right, or I've even like sent them the video that I'm working on, like a rough cut, and say, hey, here's the track. I need something that feels kind of upbeat, that feels like this, more kind of electronic. I might give them some artist names, within that, to give them a little bit of direction. and they'll put together a big playlist for me of music to sort of choose from. Is that something where, like, yeah, if I called you up and said, hey, Dan, I got this project, it's, you know, it's very kind of, you know, tension filled, or it's like this, or I've got scenes like this, and, you know, what do you think? What are some good tracks that might work for this? Is that something you guys do?
Yeah, exactly. It's not something that I do personally, but BMG would do that for you on our behalf. It is absolutely something that I could do. So you're more than welcome, or anyone is welcome, to reach out to me and do it. But usually that is handled through BMG, but that's just the nature of our contract with them. It's just our deal with them. But I actually would like that interaction with the client more. I think I can help get them what they need maybe quicker, because no one's going to know our library as well as I'm going to know it. And hopefully I can get them on the right track as fast as we can. What you're articulating as well, like, the reference track, I think it's brilliant. And I even worked that backwards, right? So you have, like, you put together stuff, you'd send it to the library, right? And they're like, and you'd say, okay, here's a reference of what we're kind of looking for. Here's a YouTube link. I've done the same things with my writers where I say, hey, I want to come out with a volume that sounds like this YouTube link, or these other people did this kind of thing. And you know what? I think we can do it better. So maybe we should do that better, right? The other thing about our library, which I structured to help with that same pursuit, is, since we separate the different styles of crime music, hopefully it's even easier. So, like, we do a thing called Southern Justice, or cybercrime, or forensic science, or crime scenes, or beat cops, right? It's all like hip hop infused stuff. So we're trying to make it as simple as you can actually get what you needed. Another volume series that we do is called simply Eerie Vibes. It's just vibes that are eerie, right? Just eerie vibes. There's hundreds of them. Just go listen, eerie vibes. And in addition to, like, the stuff that you would expect in a production music library and, a tension-based one, the other thing that we do is we do, like, specialty releases. They're not one-offs. We do them in groups of 3. And I'll give you an example of one. One of them would be like somber cello. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. Like this library, or excuse me, this volume here. These are all real cellists. I think some of the best cellists in the world. Like, listen, just take a second and listen to how beautiful this is. If you were working on a project that was, like a period piece, crime in the 1880s, or, think like a Sherlock Holmes type of thing, or BBC type, documentary, like, we seek out more than just the modern composer sitting, in their home studio. Like, I'm seeking out some of the best, like, virtuosic players that I can find, people who are undeniably incredible. And working with them is so fun because, many times they're not the greatest engineers, but because they've spent their life, trying to be a great player, and they are. And so then it becomes this, like, co-conspirator type of, back and forth, where I'm working with them. I'm like, no, you got to record it again because I think I hear a car in the background. And then they send us their raw files, and then we master it. And then one last thing I was going to show, actually 2 last things I was going to show. One is we do artist releases. These are people who, something about how they write or what they write is so unique, so interesting, undeniably good. And so we give them an artist release, like their name goes on the cover, and I mean, they're just so good. So I'm gonna go to this guy right here, Sorrow and Anguish. I just love this release. Jeff Riggs is the guy that wrote this stuff. Everything on this is just wonderful. Check this guy out. Just sad and lonely. This track is called Alone Time. Come on. It doesn't get these emotional loss. Let's listen to this. Right? It's 2 in the morning. Cops are on the floor. They're knocking. It's raining. Are you we do our artist releases, but for all the editors here, sound effects, sound effects, sound effects, sound effects, sound effects. Let's talk about our sound effects. And they are endless. Each
One
one
quick
of our,
question.
yes.
One quick question before you move on to sound effects. Well, we
Sure.
actually have two questions, but
Sure.
actually I have three questions. But one question that I think is pretty good here. It says, do you have music done in different period styles? You know, crime shows or genre movies from the past as opposed to contemporary styles.
Yeah, it's so cool. So, yes and no. Yes. Have we called it like period crime? We are working on something like that. We're also working on some stuff. I don't want to give too much away to my competitors, but we're also working on some stuff right now called like Worlds of Crime, and it's crime based on location. So absolutely, we have crime based on time and location. You know, so like think about like Celtic criminals or something like that, right? Or like Tomb Raiders, right? It's stuff like that. It's I love going in and finding that super niche. One volume, real quick, since we're talking about it, we had an artist who just writes this beautiful music. I'm trying to find it. We called her Release Emotional Violin. Wonderful composer. And you can see some of these titles, right? British Mystery, Crimes of Victoria. Let's listen to this guy real quick. Right? Lizzie Borden style. Who? Gallup, Holmes and Watson. Definitely some throwback, right? Transparently, I'll say it again, and I will say it all day long because I believe it. I think some of the stuff we have, some of the best stuff you can have. It's all real. It's real players. You know, there's human like emotion into these tracks. It's not just, hey, we have all the same software and we sound like everyone else. I will just rabbit trail really quickly. I reject about 80% of the submissions that come into CrimeSonics. I am incredibly difficult to impress. I wish I could accept everything. But this is what I tell our writers. If it's a good track, it's going to get rejected. If it's a great track, you'll probably get notes. If it's an exquisite track, bring it in. Let's get this guy out to the world. Okay, you said you had a few other questions.
And real quick too, I just listening to some of these tracks. I mean, in my mind, like for a lot of the work that I do, you know, it's like I would hear what your website does and I think, okay, that wouldn't be applicable to what I'm doing. But listening to some of the music now that you're playing, it's like, I see how I could make some of this stuff work. It's like, some of this stuff would totally cross over. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we did have a question. This is kind of a little bit off topic of what we're talking about, but Joey asked, what kind of audio monitors do you recommend for an edit studio when you're working?
That is a good question. Here I have pretty solid monitors. They're just, you can see them back there. The NS10, the white speaker, I don't know how well you can see it because my screen's not
sharing. Yeah. When we go back to non-sharing screen.
Yeah, it's no big deal. You know, I don't want to tell someone what they need and what they don't need. I will say this, in regard to monitoring, you absolutely get what you pay for. Best piece of advice I could give is make sure you have a sub. Gotta have a subwoofer in there. If you are working on a project and you're kind of the end-all be-all editor and it's not going somewhere else, there is definitely some things happening in the lower frequencies. And if you don't have a sub, you're just not aware of it. And so I would be so, it'd be like driving a car blind. You just can't see it. You just can't hear it. And so if you're editing, but then your project is going to go to a mixer, doesn't matter. You can just get some solid monitors, anything that's clear, nothing that's like hyping. You want flat reference. You want to hear like honest, true, like, you know, what's happening in the audio. But if you are the end all be all editor slash mixer slash this particular project's kind of indie and we just got to, you know, it was run and gun and here we go. get $100 sub if that's all you got. Get something to reference that low end, because that's going to make or break the way it sounds in a theater. That is a promise.
And then let's see, we have another question, and I think you probably kind of talked about this, but let's see. Bob asked about, today Black Lives Matter and defund the police are in the news. How would you search for something to put in a documentary that's relevant to what's going on in today's news? So I think you kind of talked about that by using the metadata and the keywords, but is there anything else?
I think you're right, but like that question makes me start thinking about it really comes down to a couple of things. First, if you are editing a project that you are creating, you are the director, you are the producer, you are the editor, you're wearing all hats, right? Then hopefully you know the emotion that you're trying to convey. And really, at the end of the day, that is what all of this is about, right? The music is there to support the story. It's really, most of the time, arguably because of dialogue, it's really there to be felt and not heard, right? And so you just have to kind of ask yourself and ask the scene, like, what is the scene asking for? And what is the emotional impact that you're trying to leave on your audience? That will help you get, closer to your goal, right? So if you're trying to make someone feel really uncomfortable, right? Really, uneasy, those type of words even are what you could search, unease, off kilter, juxtaposition, tension, and so I think it comes down to what's the emotional goal of, the whole project, and then the segment, and then the edit, all the way down to just an individual scene or whatever.
Yeah, that's perfect, because as you were saying that, another question came through from Jill, who asked, can you search by emotion, anger, fear, angst? And you just said it. So
absolutely. Yes. If the metadata is done correctly, you absolutely can search in that way. And there are even companies that specialize in metadata, and some production music libraries will link up with them and they work a deal, and another third party comes in and listens to the music. And then, they provide you with all that metadata. I actually really enjoy doing the I know you wouldn't think I would enjoy this part, but like, I actually enjoy, like, one day a month, grabbing a coffee, sitting in a different room, listening to everything we've done and doing the metadata. Like, I don't mind it at all. I actually look forward to it. And so I make sure that you can search by those things. And if we went over here for a second, we can see an example. Can you see this on my screen? Let me go down to a track. Hold on, let me see what's in here. I think it's this track. Let me hit this track. Okay, and then right here. Okay, yeah, little avatars get in the way and I can't hover anymore. Let me see if I can do this. Is that it? Okay, can you guys see that? Let's see if I can get another one to come up. Somehow there we go. Okay, look. Crime, criminal, crime scene, murder, angst, bad, brooding, cold, creepy, danger. I mean, on and on and on. This track is on Crime Scenes Volume 1, and it's called Contrary Clues. And so you have all of these words, and if you were to hit any nefarious and CSI, illegal, killer, murderer, investigation, investigatory, tension, eerie, all of these words would prompt this track if you were to search them. Let's listen to the track. Yeah, that's very dark, creepy, cold. You can see suspenseful, forensic. Immediately has that sound. It never gets old. It is like a drug. I'm going to jump into the sound effects real quick, unless there's another question.
Yeah, I actually have two quick questions, and
cool.
I think then we can jump in. So
I prefer it. Let's do it.
One quick question is, and I like this question: who writes the names of the tracks?
Yeah.
And then another question that's on our from Facebook stream is, how much is it to sample or license a track? And I know that might be kind of like you talked about before, sure, about, hey, give us a call, we can work with you. But generally, what does that run?
Okay, so who names the tracks? It's a bit of a like a two-way road here. So initially, we let all the composers. I don't want to sound like facetious. We let them try to name the track. Like, name your track, right? You're writing it. Name your track. But we adhere to kind of like 3 steps on the naming of the track. The track's title, I mean, that's like the mega billboard of your track. So at first, it should sum up like the library, right? We're CrimeSonics. It should have a crimey title. The second thing is it should immediately sum up the emotion of the track, right? Like you're not going to say something like, you know, Happy Criminal. It's like this super dark, foreboding track. Or you're not going to call it like, you know, like Hybrid Hackers and we hit play and it's a cello. I mean, that's just silly, you know what I mean? So it has to make sense. And then the last thing is it should sum up the volume or, you know, or like the release that it's sitting on. So like if I just scroll down here to our percussive pursuits, these are some of our most successful stuff. And it's because they're just think big nasty trailers, bangs and stuff. Percussive pursuits is high energy action percussion, right? And so all the titles have that vibe: flashbang, hunting predators, intruder alert, police pounding, slamming sirens. This particular release that I have on the screen is we created this specifically for promo editors. You can see in the wave files how it's these bursts of percussion, and then down the track it gets bigger and bigger. Let me just show you one of these for a second, and then I'll show you another one real fast that's like more track oriented. Check this out. Just a big old nasty slam followed by another big old nasty slam. Let's fast forward a little bit. About as trailer as it gets. I love that stuff. But if we went down to another,
DJ did a little headbanging during that. By the way, that was great.
Yeah, percussive pursuits is so fun, so fun, and I think we're on volume 9 or 10 right now. So it's like 90 tracks of this stuff. Here's one called Big Guns. It's just loud, angry. Highway robbery. Security breach. This track here, Pit Maneuver, this is actually my favorite. I love it. You know, that's like lullaby music to me. I think I could go to sleep to that track. Taser, Terminator. So yeah, it's fun. So that's how the titling works. It should immediately sum up the library, the volume, and the emotion of the track. And then the other question was about sampling and licensing. So sampling is a scary term. Sampling is using something maybe without someone's permission. Maybe it kind of has that term. Be careful with the word sampling.
Yeah, I think he's more questioning just like what would it cost to get one of the tracks.
Sure, yeah, and like, you know, those rates are different for everyone, and that's handled by BMG. And so I definitely wouldn't want to go into all those details, because if it's a smaller project, it's probably going to be one rate, and if it's CBS and it's for a big thing, it's probably going to be a different rate. Fair enough.
Then one other one that just came through, Big Gun sounded like there was a helicopter in it. Will it say helicopter in the metadata?
Probably, you're right. So so let's talk about percussive pursuits for a second. It's a volume series that we created, and it's pretty simple to understand. It's big, huge, high energy action percussion. It should have some sort of siren and some sort of you know, police chopper or like a machine gun or something that's, I don't want to get too musical at all, but it's something that's like just angry and arping or just like ramping up the whole time. That track might say that in the metadata. Let's look. And I tell you what, if it doesn't, I think we should add it, because that's a great suggestion. Let's see, hold on. It was Big Guns, right? Let's see if it's in there. Ah, helicopter, right there. Nailed it. Told you I knew what I was talking about. That's so fun.
And then one last thing before we move on to sound effects, because I definitely want to hear more on that.
Yes,
We have
got
a
a lot of them.
question about have you ever put any personal Easter eggs in the tracks, like your kids' voices, message backwards, or anything like that?
That's a cool question. I do add interesting stuff into about everything I write. So I'm trying to think if I've ever done anything like weird or, not off the top of my head, but like like you're talking about Big Gun. Like I wrote that track. There's a helicopter. I have another track that has helicopters in it. Sometimes it's like you can break glass and like throw glass in there. Like someone wrote a track called Vandals or Vandalism or something. I can't remember which one. But like every time it slams, you hear glass shattering, and it sounds like people vandalize and stuff. I love it.
Sound effects. Let's talk about them.
All right, so got a ton of them. Each one of our sound effects. Actually, we're about 50-50, I think. I think CrimeSonics right now is about 50% music and 50% sound effects. We name our volumes to stay on brand, but they are as what they are. So like, and I'll get into like, okay, rise to impacts, brutal Brahms, rager slams, whooshes, all this kind of stuff. We try to give them somewhat like slams and sirens. We try to give them crimey names if we can. Reckless risers. Let's just go through this stuff. Anything you could ever want for a promo or a trailer, we absolutely have that ready to go. Each sound effect volume has 50 sound effects, and they're that simple. Drag and drop sound effects. I'll just sample a little bit of a few. Let's go to the Reckless Risers. The titling of the Reckless Risers should also kind of sound like what it does usually. So like this one's called Ascension. Let's take a listen. Ooh, I love it. Breaker. Here's another one. I don't know if you guys hear that in stereo, but it's going crazy. We'll do one more of these. Cell bar scraper. Okay, so we got rioting risers and ransom risers. It's just all risers. We have hundreds and hundreds of them. That one's just playing on its own. All right, homicidal hits. Here we go. Ooh, awful Hannibal. This is called Bundy Roar. Killer Cannibal. Death Stank. Yeah, if you need impacts or risers, we got you covered, man. We got you.
There is one question about the sound effects like the risers. Are you doing those digitally, or are you using Foley style elements to pull that off?
Oh man, so I've done so many of these. Yes. The answer is yes to all of it, all of it. Sometimes it's made organically. Sometimes I'll take things that are already made that I've created like in the past. I'll bring them in, I'll add to them, and I'll use like digital synths to create it. Sometimes we'll use guitars to do it. All of the impacts were created here. We, at our last rental house, we filled the bathtub with plastic, and we broke hundreds of plates and frames and guitars. And like we had a whole bathtub, a big old whirlpool bathtub just filled with destruction. And we just sampled it till the cows come home. And we have hundreds and hundreds of samples, hours of audio that we can just pick and choose from. And yeah, I love it. I love it. So yes to that question. What else we got here? Let's go into, so we got whooshes and washes and transitions and pulses. Pulses is kind of fun because sometimes you just need something under a scene and you don't want it to do a whole lot. So here's just a couple of just pulses. So you can lay it in there. It's almost like a score all on its own, you know. That one's real deep. I don't know if you got a sub, you'd be feeling that one. Like this kind of stuff. So here's what's cool. You could come to the CrimeSonics library. You could choose a pulse from this volume. You could then go to like one of these other volumes that has like pads. I'm not sure where that is on here, but we have another one that's just simple pads. Like here we go, drones. So you could grab a pulse, you could grab a drone, you can start creating like really like your own score out of our sound effects. And we have all the transitional elements and all the risers. You could grab a percussive pursuit, all those giant percussion. I mean, it's all in here. Like it is truly all in here. These are just simple, like, you know, minute or so long. And they're just pads. Drag and drop. They never get in the way. That's the other thing. Pretty cool. Love it all day long. And maybe I'll go through the whooshes real quick because it's funny because one of the recent trailer placements we had was the Doolittle trailer with Robert Downey Jr. Universal Pictures licensed one of our whooshes because, you know, sometimes you just need that windy whoosh that goes, you know, right over the, you know, coming soon or whatever. So we have all these different whooshes, short, slow, aggressive, sometimes not aggressive. Some of the most useful stuff out there, I think. You could literally grab a pulse, grab a pad, and then end all that with this whooshy right here. And then like, there you go, bam, scene's done. I'll do one more. Darker whoosh. Yep, never gets old. All right, gentlemen, what else can I do here? What else can I do?
Sounds really cool to me. I think maybe you know, and something that might be kind of interesting, and you can just talk about like, you know, music for films. Like, what would you talk to? I mean, you have a son who's an editor, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, when you talk to him about putting music into a project, and what are things that you let him know to keep in mind when he's, you know, trying to, you know, I don't know if he's musically gifted as you are, if you know, if he's knows how to play instruments and creates his own music, but you know, but when you're, you know, as somebody who creates music for film and for narrative type stuff, what is it that you would tell editors that they should, or filmmakers, you know, a lot of our people in a group make films too. Like, what should they keep in mind when looking for a composer, when they're listening to music to put in their project? You know, what are, you know, what, any advice for that?
That's a great question. And yeah, I have a couple of thoughts. Let me share a real short story. So I had an opportunity to work on just an incredibly lovely film for this guy, brilliant filmmaker, even lives by me. And came over, I mean, like this guy has worked on a lot of really big, amazing stuff, but, you know, self-funded a project that I won't give the title of it. It's on Netflix now, though. It's just wonderful film. And we spent a lot of time in the studio on the music, a lot of time. I did not end up working on the project. And it wasn't because we didn't see eye to eye on the music. We absolutely did. So as a director, he came in with mostly temp score. Some composers don't like temp score, which is where you just, you know, a director just chooses a bunch of music that they, you know, they believe fits their scenes. And then they bring it to a composer and say, do something like that. So it's not so different that I freak out, but you know, it's still your own. I actually like that. I'm not one of those guys that can't handle it. I think it's fine. I think it's great. All the music that he chose was brilliant by some of my favorite composers. So why didn't I end up working on the project? Why not? It was the interaction. So I'm just talking about for a second, like the the director, producer, composer interaction. Most composers, we fully know, like, we want to help. We want to support the story. I mean, if we're not thinking that way, you gotta get a different gig. Like, we want to support the story. It's your baby. It's your story. You have your visual. You have the dialogue. There's going to be sound effects. Somewhere in there, there's going to be some music that helps. With this particular director, we could never not see eye to eye musically, but we could never see eye to eye workflow, right? Workflow. It was like I would write, he'd send a scene, I'd write it, send it back. He wants to come over and sit at the piano. Okay, now we're there all night. We do another scene, come back, you want to sit there all night. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that for some people, but I'm a busy guy. I want to get this thing done. I want to give it 100%, right? Like, I can't, like, we can't have dinner every night, dude, every scene. It's a full-length film. So I just wanted to throw that thing out real quick about, like, everything is collaborative, right? And so when you are working with music people, if we have any emotional intelligence, like, we just want to help, we want to do the gig, but we also don't want to feel like there's a noose around our neck and it's, you know, it's terrible. In regard to another scenario where a director comes to a composer, or an editor comes to a composer, and a lot of times it's like editor director, like, especially on like an indie level, right? It's like, you shot it, you wrote it, you shot it, you're editing it, and then you're like, ooh, with that music part, that one, the music part's tricky, sound effects are tricky, right? So sometimes you come to guys like us and you have no idea what to do. Well, that's not like always great either, right? Because then, you know, we could be in a situation where now I'm shooting in the dark. And it's like, you bring this film, you tell me the story, and then I think I know what you want. And so then I come in here and I put man hours and life into it, right? Really, that's what's most important. Giving up lifetime to put into your project. And then it's completely wrong. It's just not what you were looking for. It's like, ah. So I think something that helps the process along is, it doesn't have to always be temp score, but it can be. It doesn't always have to be, you have no idea what you're doing. Well, it can be a little bit. Sometimes it's like, it's good to have some ideas, like as an editor, as a director, as a producer. You might, you know, to personalize again, if you're coming with something that's like crimey sounding, well, what kind of crimey? Is this like, you know, Bad Boys movie? Is this Miami Vice? Is this like Dirty Harry style? Is this some sort of like Crimes in Texas, Southern Justice, you know, Houston Night kind of thing? Like, so having some sort of idea, roughly, even if it's just like one show or one episode or one movie. I kind of like what they did in this thing at this one point. Now, I will tell you a funny story. I had, this couple of years ago, had a film come in and they kept telling me, we want music like the movie Drive, if you remember that movie. We want music like the movie Drive. I'm like, okay. And they're like, specifically, this one scene. And they're like, okay. So like, they're talking to me about this scene. And then we're having them over, you know, got dinner at the studio, got the movie pulled up. They're going to pull up the scene and Drive. No joke. There's no score in the scene in that movie. And they were thinking of a different scene, but it was so funny how like they were so camped out. And what spoke to me was what they were hearing was the edit, right? They were seeing the way it was shot and the visual, and that spoke to them musically, but there was no music. And so I was like, my job's done. This is the easiest score ever. I'm not writing nothing. So we ended up picking something completely, I don't know, sounded like Scream or something. I can't remember what it was, but you know, something fun.
Kind of, you know, having done short films and worked with composers, I actually had a case where the last short film I made, one composer was recommended to me, and we talked a little bit on the phone, and I told him kind of the style that I was looking for, and you know, and he sent back, you know, some tracks to drop in, sort of like a rough temp of some stuff. And it was just not at all what I was looking for, not even close. And yeah, it was really awkward because he'd come so recommended from folks that I really trust. And it was just like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And then I met a different composer and we started talking, and it became very apparent right off the bat. Like, he knew exactly what I was going for, and he ended up giving me exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
But I guess that leads into the question I have is like collaboration with a filmmaker, director, producer, whoever. Can you talk about like is there a point where they kind of overstep? How much freedom do you want? How much freedom do you expect? Micromanagement, is there any way, most producers and filmmakers probably sitting down with you aren't musicians. So
Sure.
you're going to be doing your thing and they're just going to be reacting to it. But, where is sort of where are some sort of guidelines that what's comfortable for you with the collaboration thing? Obviously you talked about somebody sitting down and wanting to go through every track, but
Oof.
kind of micromanaging what you do and telling you how to, make the music and what they want,
Yeah. Well, let's pretend like you and I are working on a project. So you came to me, and the reason why is because hopefully you knew, like, okay, our project is about these two cops, or it's real crimey, or it's like something horror or thriller, even like a dark sci-fi. There is this thing like in our industry where like a composer should be able to write anything. And like, look, I've lived it. I've done that gig where you just write in every single style. For me personally, since we're talking like personal opinion thing, I only want to stay in one place, right? Sonically. I want to be darker. I like my studio dark. You can kind of see it in here. I actually turn on some extra lights in here just so you can see me, right? So, okay, you come to me. We know we're working on something dark. As like a guy, just personally, I am an open book and I'm super transparent. And so I want to know the story. I also am a storyteller. I love cameras, right? We created our projects. That's how we won our Emmys, something that I wrote, I created. But that does not mean that I try to project any of that skill set onto you as a director at all. Like, no, in this relationship, I'm the sound guy, music guy, totally cool. And so I want you as a director, tell me your story. If you haven't shot anything, tell me your story. If you have shot it, let's watch it together and let's get like the play pause thing going, because I want to talk to you. Like if there's a scene, like, okay, here's how I'm hearing this scene. Like, is this the emotion? Like, oh no, I didn't even know this backstory that you know because you wrote it and it's going to be revealed to me later. Oh, there's all this other stuff. I have to know your story. I have to know it. If I'm going to support it, I got to know it. And I got to fully understand it as well as you understand it. You were there, you wrote it, you shot it. Get that into my head, because if I can fully understand the connection between the characters, the relationship, the overarching tone, where the beats are, where the the arc is, then man, we are off to the races. Now, how much micromanagement did you ask for? Not really any. I mean, like, I prefer temp score. I actually like it. I think it's brilliant. Like, you told me your story. I know exactly all the characters. I know what this is about. Give me 3 somethings to listen to. Give me 3 somethings. And then we can talk about, like, go to coffee, dude. Let's go. Once the COVID's over, like, why these 3? And then I can start figuring, like, oh, okay, you wrote this thing about these, about this detective who's in Texas, and you like this film score because they're using these weird bowed banjos. Okay, I pocket that away. Like, you are into that bowed banjo thing. And then you like this other score because it has like these ambiguous, like, world percussion sounds, and they're dark from a whole different movie. I'm like, okay, so you're digging that kind of thing. So I got 2 things pocketed away. But then you gave me this completely different score, and it's like ambient piano with strings, and it's emotional, and it's like a love story kind of thing. I'm like, okay, so so now I'm thinking like bowed banjos, percussion, pianos, and strings. Like, how do I put all this together? How do I take the story that you wrote that now I understand, and all these characters and these 3 attempts to stick it all together? I say, send me the most important scene of the film, and I'm going to score it based on our conversations and meetings. And like, if you love it, you love it. If you don't, you don't. But like, tell me why you don't, and we'll keep massaging it. I don't care if we don't get it right the first time or the second or third time. Like, if I'm way off base, okay, I might not be the guy. If I'm way off base, might not be the guy. If I'm close, hopefully, you can articulate why or why not. And you never have to speak in musical terms. Like, musical terms are not needed. Just talk to me in story, talk to me in emotion. You know, if you have musical terms too, that's cool, but most guys don't.
One other question, Ed, this is from Brian the Groove. He says, to add to Eric's question, when do you cut your losses on something that isn't going well? You're obviously under contract when working. Is this something that happens to you rarely? Sometimes. I know as an editor, sometimes working with a new client or director yields such different editing experiences. Do you just bang your head against the wall until it's over
Okay.
if you run across a bad time?
No, man, you said Brian, great question. I love it. Okay, couple things. First, foremost, do your absolute best just in life that you can get to a place where you don't have to say yes to everything at all. Like that's, you know, whatever you got to do to get to the place where you can at least go, okay, I can be a little bit picky and choosy a little bit. If I don't like the vibe of a director, I'm not working with them. I don't have to. I really like my wife. I really like my son. I'm home here all day long. I want to see those people. And if I'm giving up time, lifetime, my lifetime and their lifetime to come in here to work with someone who's terrible, I have not made a good life choice. So first, don't even sign up. There's another gig. You don't need the cash. I mean, like, you figure something out, man, sell something. It's not worth it. Okay, so let's say you get into a project, you like the guy, like the scenario that I had, you love the film, like the scenario I had. Things on Netflix now, it's a beautiful film, it's doing great, winning all kinds of awards. I'm like, man, I really like that movie too. But I had to cut the loss. I had to pull away when it became, I'm going to start losing money and focus on other projects. Like there's other stuff going on. There's much bigger picture than this thing. And it's just, man, it's different for everybody. Like, can I be like super frank about all this stuff? Like, don't waste your time on the indie Craigslist thing. Don't waste your time on the soul-crushing for credit. No one's ever going to see it, but it has a name attached and the name you ain't ever heard of. Like, don't waste your time. You're never going to get that time back. And then someone's going to say, but you need those credits. You probably don't need the credit that no one ever heard of. But I need the money. How much is it? Is it a lot? Okay, well, I don't know. Hope I'm making that clear. You're giving up lifetime. I don't know who said, I think it was Henry Rollins or something. You don't, what does he say? Something like, you don't have like, there's not daytime or nighttime. There's not downtime. You can't make time. All you have is lifetime. And that's what you spend. And no matter how much you make, you can't buy it back, right? Don't waste your time working on stuff that's terrible. That's why I want to do crimey stuff, man. I like the crimey stuff. Don't come to me with no comedy. Even if it's a comedy about cops, it better be 90% crime and like 10% jokes. I love it. I mean that.
I just love the word crimey. That is
crimey. That's our term.
I just think that is the greatest word right now.
It's crimey, dude.
All right. Well, I think that is a perfect way to, unless you've got something else, I think that is a great thing. And I totally agree with you. I think work-life balance, especially in our industry, is something that just gets overlooked and not really talked. It's getting talked about more, which is great, but it's still, I think, kind of I think there's an expectation from people in our biz that you're just going to work long hours. You're just going to work long days. You're going to get underpaid sometimes. And there's just that sort of expectation. And I don't think that needs to be there.
You don't have to look at that.
Yeah. It's on us as artists to set those boundaries, and say, I'm not going to do this.
Can I end with one other thing? Because we were talking about that. Not that I need to keep yakking it all. I'm watching.
No, it's fine.
But I tell you what, we got connected because of the regional Emmys, and I'm so proud of that. Like, I came to LA, I wanted to win some Emmys, and I just keep going in my mind going, I keep forgetting to say this. I never really felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing until I started my own thing. I never did the intern thing. I've tried working for other people, and like, not everyone's made that way. And so like, whoever watches this, whenever they watch this, like sometimes, like if you know, like maybe you just need to be doing your own thing. You can follow a path or you can blaze a trail. Sometimes you got to be a trailblazer and just do your own thing. Now, I wake up every day ready to go, jazzed up. I cannot wait. I got stuff to do and like I love what I'm doing. I'm never not happy with the work now. And I would not trade that for some, couple bucks here and there. So I'll end with that. Find that thing that you love to do and turn it into your thing.
That's the best advice. I mean, yeah, I think we are lucky. I think I speak for DJ when I say this too, that, I think the three of us are very lucky that, yeah, as bad as our day might be at work, we still, when I get up in the morning, I actually look forward to going to work. I don't always like having to deal with some clients and some other, business related stuff, but I love going to work. I mean, there's never a point where I sit at the edge of the bed and think, I just don't want to leave the house today. There's always that, like, let's get there. I can't wait to get there and let's be creative. Let's do something. It's, I mean, DJ, do you feel that way too?
No, absolutely. When you were saying like, I love my wife, I love my kids, like I wanted to stand up all Bob Cratchit style and clap and, so that Scrooge comes by and humbugs me, but because I totally feel that. And, something that I've said before is, particularly, I guess, because I started freelancing later, and then kind of turned it into my own business. Like my life is basically just working with my friends, I'm lucky enough that, like, my friends are doing it too. And so 85% of my, the people that I work with are people that I would gladly have beers with and hang out and, chat about. And so I don't, it's just nice. And even on like the worst day that, you're just not vibing it, it's going to be gone in a week and a half. I mean, 2 weeks, you're just going to be onto something different. And, and that's the great part about it. So I completely agree.
I had a gig where I was working, doing some corporate stuff, and I'll never forget walking into the building. It was a day kind of like today for Southern California, where it was 95 degrees out, and we're walking into this big corporate office, me and the other camera guys, and there were some guys out there painting the side of the building. And I'll never forget, his name is Mark, looked over at me and he said, he goes, I'll tell you something. However bad or rough our day in this building on camera is, it is the easiest day, and we should thank God that we are not outside in 90-degree weather painting this building. Our job will be far better than those guys painted. They have a rough gig. We do not. However bad our gig may get, it's nowhere near as rough as what those guys are doing. And I kind of always keep that in the back of my head. It's like, we have a really great job for those of us who make a living in this business, and we should have little to complain about.
Yeah.
So, well, Dan, I don't know why Siri decided to kick in there, but Dan, I can't thank you enough, man. That was a phenomenal presentation. It was so great. Yeah, I learned a lot, and I know everybody else did, and I can't thank you enough. And I am definitely going to be on future projects checking out your website.
Well, come on, man, let's do something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. I feel like I need to write something crime related now,
dude,
just to work together.
I tell you what, music's free on that one. Let's go.
All right.
Be short though. It's gotta be short.
Yeah, we'll do.
30 seconds of glory, man. I'm there.
I want to help you out just because I'm your true crime friend. So,
dude, we gotta like the three of us. We just need to work on something dope immediately.
Okay, let's
in.
Make that happen. All right, so DJ, we've got some stuff to give away.
Ooh, cool.
All right. Yeah, so the way that we're going to do this is if everybody in the Zoom, because you got to be in the Zoom to make this work, because I'm not going to go chasing you down. But if you could just put a number between 1 and 100 while you guys are doing that, I am going to start sharing my screen. So what we're going to do is I've got a random.org pulled up, and it's just a number generator.
Giveaway first will be one of the passes for oh dude, you already
No, this is just a number. This is
just a number. Okay.
Yeah, no, that was me testing it. So
okay.
There we go.
So yeah, so the first thing The first thing we will give away will be one of the passes to Adobe Video World. So we've got 2 of those. So we'll give those both away, and then we'll do Creative Cloud. So
I'm playing too.
all right. So everybody, do we put the number in the Q&A? No, Phil, put the number in the chat pod, please. Everybody put the number in the chat pod.
And we are following Price is Right rules. So like if if you're 1 over, sorry.
All right, I think we got numbers from everybody. I'm going to give everybody 1 more second to put a number in. And let's see, I do have Chris in the Facebook room. He's throwing a number out there. So Chris, I know we said we'd only do it in Zoom, but since you're the only person who put a number in the Facebook group, we'll count your vote. So, and he actually put 53, which is what you put up, DJ. So, all right. So 3. Oh wait, let's see. Okay, folks. Okay, we got 2 numbers in the Q&A pod. So please put numbers in the chat pod. Numbers in the chat pod. But I think we're all good. So last chance. 3, 2, 1, and go ahead and hit it. 85. Let's see what we got here. Who's got 85? I see a 78. Jill Boyd. I think Jill's our winner.
Go Jill.
Yeah. Yes, Jill, you are a winner. So Jill, what you need to do is reach out to myself or to DJ if you know either one of us. If you don't have our email address or a way to contact us, let us know. But yeah, just reach out to me or DJ, and we will. Mike, I saw your number, Mike. So, so Jill, just reach out to us, and we will get you the information. There's a code that we will give you, and then you'll just put that in. So, all right, let's do this one more time. I'm going to clear out this thing here. Okay. And let's see. So we're going to go round 2. I don't think I can clear out the chat pod. So let me do this. Hey, round 2. Okay, so everything below round 2 in the chat pod. Everybody put in a new number. DJ, same thing between 1 and 100?
Yep, 1 and 100.
All right. Doobie-doobie-doo. All right, so this is for the Mega Bundle Pass for Adobe Video World. I think that is everybody. I'm counting down here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, DJ, hit it. 39. Let's see. Lucky 39.
I see a 37.
I see 37. That might be our winner. Okay, yeah, I think 37 is our winner. Okay, so same thing. Reach out to DJ and myself, shoot us an email and let us know or your contact information, and we can send you the pass information. And yeah, so that's that. And so here we go. We're gonna do round 3. This is for the year of Creative Cloud. Let me round 3. All right, Bob, is 42 for this one, I'm assuming. Okay, so I'm seeing the numbers come in. All right. Okay, I think that's it. I'm gonna count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hit it, DJ. 46. Let's see. So it looks like I see Mike has got 44. I think that's probably going to be the closest one. Yeah, I think that's it. All right. So same deal, Mike. Please reach out to me and send me your contact information, and I will get you I will need your email and some other information from you to send to Adobe to get your year of Creative Cloud. But I think that is it. Okay, let me just check the chat pods here just to make sure we're all good. Should I send my email here? Oh, and nice job, Dan. Thanks for your presentation. We're getting some good feedback there. Okay, here, I'm going to put my email. I think everybody here has it, but just in case anybody doesn't, oops. This is my email. It's in the chat pod. So if you won tonight, please email me. Thanks, Dan. Great presentation. Keep up the good work out there. Yeah, Dan, just to wrap up, thank you so much. It was an amazing presentation. I can't thank you enough, man. You really did a great job, especially kind of on short notice. I know we threw this at you sort of last minute, but man, you just hit it out of the park. So
thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. DJ, anything to say? Any final words?
No, I got nothing.
Okay. All right. And on that note, we will close out August. We will see you all next month for our September meeting. Yeah. Thanks again, Dan. And yeah, we'll see everybody next month.
Thank you so much, Dan.
See you.
Awesome job.
See ya.